Hi, I'm David Clair, founder and president of CLAIR CO. I'm a professional restorer of antiques and artwork in Washington, D.C. since 1995. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. I invite you to subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell. That way you'll be updated anytime I post a new video. Today we're going to be discussing one of the three big English furniture designers, Thomas Sheraton. So as we look at this chest of drawers here, there's a few design cues that stand out that really sort of scream that Sheraton style. The first and most obvious, at least to me here, is these outwardly mounted reeded legs. This is really only seen on Sheraton furniture. You don't see this in any other style, where the legs are actually outcropped from the carcass here, and they are reeded. These are nice turn legs. You'll see here on the bottom they're turned as well. And turned here at the top, and they terminate up here in this really nice medallion. So that's a major design cue there, as well as the bow front chest. And Sheraton's, this again leans more towards the Louis XVI influence, I think, or points to that rather, where you see the bow front chest. And also you'll see often with Sheraton pieces, in addition to the bow front, you'll see a serpentine front, which is fairly common. And of course, it's not as obvious in these chairs here, but they do have a slight serpentine front. And these chairs are also heavily influenced by Sheraton's drawings. So this particular chest has a really nice carcass here, and the mahogany that was used to create these drawers is really fantastic. And you can see throughout here, the use of the mahogany is just evident that it was really well chosen wood. Gorgeous patina on these ones. This particular chest of drawers came from Boston. Of course, I mentioned the American colonies, but as far as the timeline is concerned, these are primarily, of course, this chest of drawers I believe here to be made around somewhere between 1810 to 1820, which is of course after Thomas Sheraton's death, and certainly inside of the new American Republic. Of course, the American Revolution, Americans declared independence in 1776, and I think the American Revolution concluded at 1789, if I'm not mistaken. So this piece, of course, being in the new American Republic in Boston. But of course, these influences, the English cabinet makers' design influences were certainly felt throughout the American colonies, and then of course into the American Republic. This particular chest has the original brasses here, which is very rare. It seems exceedingly rare these days. Most of the times I find these and they've been replaced with some other substandard hardware. These are all original and they've never been dismounted. I can see here that they're still attached in the back. There's no additional holes that were made, and these are in fantastic condition. Another design feature with the Hepplewhite style is these backsplashes, which you'll see that are Rococo influenced actually, which is more of a Baroque style. But you'll get this curved linear piece here, which is really nice, and these medallions here on the edges that terminate. And that's, again, another design piece that you'll see typically on Sheraton furniture. So this is a very classical Sheraton piece, but in addition to that, then we have these chairs here, which could be considered American Federal period. But of course, these to me scream Sheraton as well. You've got the sort of Gothic design in the back splat. In addition to that, it's not a cornucopia in the center rail here of the crest, but it does have sort of a Grecian design here. And then also something to note on Sheraton backs is the crest on the top is typically straight across. This one has this little arch here, but it's not a curved upward back. It's very straight lines. You also have this sweeping back style and down to the leg where you get the saber leg. You get the fluting here on the arms, and also these are carved out here. You have some fluting here in the legs as well. But another thing to note with Sheraton furniture is these tapered legs. It's really, really common in Sheraton furniture to have these tapered legs. So again, when I spoke earlier and I said that the style is a refinement of the Georgian style. And so I think Sheraton's pieces tend to be, if I had to put a gender to them, I'd say they lean more towards the feminine, because you're dealing with tapered legs and smaller legs and things of that nature. But these chairs are another great example of Thomas Sheraton's work. Hey, and now that we've discussed some of the pieces that I had in my showroom, I wanted to briefly just do an overview of Thomas Sheraton before we wrap this up. just so that we can clarify some of the details about Mr. Sheraton and some of the styles and things, because I really want to paint a picture here of what the Sheraton style really is all about. So if you're out and you're antiquing and you see a piece, you'll recognize it as the Sheraton style. So I guess briefly, we'll just go over some quick things here. So Mr. Sheraton here, let's see here if we can get a picture of this gentleman up here. This is a picture of Thomas Sheraton. Of course, Thomas Sheraton lived from 1751 into 1806. He died at London at approximately 55 years old. He was born in the north of England and then traveled as a journeyman throughout England, I suppose, working for hire. It seems like that was his primary income, it looks like. And then he relocated down into London towards the end of his career, or later in his life, I should say, rather. And it was, let's see, because I took some notes here. There's a lot of dates to remember here. 1790, which is a year after the outbreak of the French Revolution, which I don't know if that had anything to do with, of course, economic reasons for him going into London. Who knows if London got involved in the war in France? I honestly don't know. But in any event, the following year, he published his 4 volumes of the Cabinet Makers and Upholsterers Drawing Book. And of course, it was 4 volumes, and it was on a subscription basis. So this particular subscription probably went out throughout the colonies, probably took about a month to get to the Americas. And of course, in the Americas, you have to understand the first sort of influential cabinet maker there would have certainly been Thomas Chippendale. And let me show you a picture of Mr. Chippendale. I've got that here as well. This is Thomas Chippendale. Looks like he would have been in Queen, the band. Look at this guy. So that's Thomas Chippendale. And of course, Chippendale's style is a different take on the Georgian. Chippendale, I don't think Chippendale's designs are quite as refined as Sheraton, but Chippendale it's got an interesting thing. It's the claw and ball feet and very chinoiserie feel to Chippendale's work. And of course, very influential to this day, the claw and ball foot. I mean, it's just iconic to Chippendale. And then, of course, one of his other, Sheraton's other contemporaries would have been George Hepplewhite, which here's another picture of him. He looks a lot like George Washington in this photo here. I don't know if I can get this photo to come up any bigger. I don't think that's the best we're going to do there. But George Hepplewhite, of course, I think he died, and his wife Alice carried on their cabinet shop for a bit after. And there's some controversy around that. If you're interested in George Hepplewhite, maybe we'll get into him someday. But for the sake of this, we're really discussing Mr. Sheraton here. So let's get these out of the way. And it's interesting to note here, Thomas Sheraton, he looks like a guy I know, actually. And if you note here, he's got earrings. So he must have been quite a character. Looks like a kind of an interesting guy here. Handsome guy, nice jawline. Well dressed, as you can see. He probably did very well for himself. Although I did read somewhere along the line that he was destitute later in life. So maybe he lost favor with his clients. I don't know. Maybe that's not accurate. I don't know. I'd have to look that up myself. But this is the gentleman here, as you can see in the photograph. And then, so this book that he published, which again was called The Cabinet Makers and Upholsterers Drawing Book, I actually got a copy, an interesting copy of it right here. Well, this is a larger works of Sheraton's pieces, and I've got a lot of books in my library regarding these. But you'll see in here a lot of the themes and things that he had throughout. This is one of my favorites here, is this Masonic chair, which is a really fantastic chair. But a lot of his designs have these interesting Grecian themes that kind of culminate, and a lot of upholstery was used in his ornamentation throughout. You can see a lot of his day beds and things of that nature are, there's a lot of upholstery and textures that are involved. And another thing that he used quite a bit, it seems as though, is the overuse of the lion head. You'll see this a lot in his designs, where there's lion paws, lion hardware, and things of that nature, which is really nice. I don't know if a lot of that might have something to do with sort of his French influence and maybe the Louis XIV style. I'm not sure. But in any event, so Thomas Sheraton, again, so he did his later work was primarily just being an author. He wrote these books and published them, and of course he supplied them to a lot of cabinet makers throughout the Americas and of course in England. And again, it's worth noting that Thomas Sheraton, he didn't actually produce any of his own furniture. So when you hear that something's a Sheraton piece, it really is referring to the style. It's not referring to a piece actually attributed to Thomas Sheraton actually manufacturing it. It's because most of these pieces were not manufactured by him. And like I said, in fact, they've got nothing actually attributed to him. So you'll not find that. So some of the notes I took down here is that his style is kind of in a transitional period. It looks as though some of his contemporary being like Robert Adams, which of course is sort of well known for the Regency style as well, and then George Hepplewhite, and then this transition later into the Regency period, as I think between George III and George IV. But again, an emphasis on elegance and refinement. So you'll notice that a lot of the legs here on his pieces of furniture are tapered. Let's see if we can get some of these examples I saved here. And you'll see, and then on, let me open this up. So you'll see here, again, in this, the use of, you're going to see the use of the lion's heads here on the hardware. A heavy use of inlay ornamentation here throughout the carcass here. And again, these tapered legs, they taper downward, and of course these ones are on spade feet. This is indicative of his style. Let's see if we got other examples here that we can share quickly. Here's some backsplats, and again, I want to emphasize here, now this one, of course, was his design, the chevron shield here, but this, in my mind, is always a little bit more associated with Hepplewhite style. But you do notice the square backs here. That's very common for him. Now this arched back here to me looks a lot like a Louis XVI take. But you have these lyre designs here. And then again, this right here is this Gothic arch here, pediment, and then you have an urn here. Very neoclassical, but square, overall square and light. Very light backs. At least that's the way he drew them. Now, of course, I'm sure depending on the cabinet maker who was hired to produce the furniture, his skill level and what he was comfortable with manufacturing, I'm sure dictated the actual furniture quite a bit. So there's that. But then let's see what else we got here, just to show the design on these. Now this is another example. This was a piece that I believe was from Rhode Island. And here again, you'll see the same theme of the turned legs here, and these outcropped legs that aren't actually incorporated into the carcass. They sit outside of the carcass, which is an interesting feature. But again, I believe that primarily to be associated with Sheraton's work. And let's see, here's another one. Let's open this one up here. See if we can get this up. Okay, here we go. All right, so this chair is super obvious Sheraton. I mean, it's again the square back. You'll see the heavy use of inlay throughout the front here, and it's again on this back panel. You have this nice bow and arrow backsplat. Very symmetrical, very neoclassical. This is a gorgeous chair. I really love this chair. I don't know where this one came from. That was a great picture. I found that one on the web. And let's see what else we got here. And okay, and then we got, again, more use of these reeded legs. So these are Sheraton, examples of Sheraton pieces. Again, on the chair seal, you'll see the squared back panels. And then again, here on this sofa, thin, tall, turned legs, squared back. Same on this sofa here with the red upholstery. Very nice. This one to me looks, I mean, obviously Sheraton, you can tell from the legs design, but again, this is, you can see the transition into that Regency period, or Robert Adams influence there. Very similar. And then again on this chair down here on the bottom, you know, turned legs, tapered legs, square back. It's that Sheraton style. So let's close this one up here, and let's see, what did we say for this last bit here? And here's another good example. This one looks like more of a, it's certainly in the Sheraton style. It's hand painted though, which to me seems more of a Robert Adams thing than the Sheraton thing. Although I'm saying it's painted, it may be inlaid, but it looks to me hand painted. But the design clearly with this bouquet center backsplat here, you'll see that this is almost right out of one of Sheraton's books. And of course, right above it here on the wall, you'll see this scroll work, which also looks like something right out of Sheraton's book, one of his design books. So it's worth noting that Sheraton was, I think, primarily more popular in New York at the time. I think the cabinet makers sort of had their regions where they were more popular, I guess, with the people who were purchasing this furniture. Chippendale being, I think, more of a Philadelphia thing, and Hepplewhite as well. But I think the Sheraton pieces were more popular in New York. So let's see, what else do we have here that we can go through. So here's another fine example. Now this is these are sketches out of Sheraton's book rather, and you'll see these themes repeated over and over. Again, here's these reeded turned feet on this particular first chair. And you've got this outcrop sort of, it's not quite serpentine, but similar to a serpentine. And then this back here with this arched pediment and heavy use of inlay. And the same on all these. And then again, here on this far right chair, you'll see these arms that come down, and you got this lion head that sits right here above the chair seat rail and the leg there. It's actually just incorporated in the leg. Really gorgeous design. I mean, it's no wonder his pieces were so popular. Truly interesting work. And you can see also, I don't know if he's the one that did the illustrations in these books. I assume that he was. It's really impressive illustrations, to be honest with you. All right, so I think, let me go through my notes here and make sure that we're wrapping this up. I want to do the gentleman justice in this video, which is going to be a smaller video for me. So if you guys aren't familiar with the channel, again, my name is David CLAIR. I am a period restorer, restorer of antiques and artwork in DC, and I've been doing that for my entire adult life. So this is what I do. I've got a lot of hands-on experience in the antiques industry in Washington, DC, working at a lot of embassies, for foreign embassies and ambassadors. I've worked inside the White House and things of that nature. So this is really what I do, is restore antiques, and I'm educating myself as well. This is a lifelong journey to learn this field and trade, and it's a lot of fun for me. So I use these opportunities to sort of educate myself as well. And I hope you guys find value in this. If you do, subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell there, make it ring. So just a couple things to wrap this up. I think overall, in Sheraton style, I think a lot of it is sort of summed up in a few words. Lightness of feeling in the furniture. You know, you're going to have smaller legs, so it makes the pieces feel like they're high off the ground. They're not these bracket feet, but they're these tall, turned feet that are tapered. So you have a feeling of lightness in his designs. Of course, the Grecian feeling, which is, you know, Greek feeling throughout a lot of the themes in some of his drawings. You'll see the meandering Greek key that goes throughout a lot of those designs in his books as well. You'll see that throughout. And then the heavy use of the lion's heads and things of that nature, which are just great design cues. It's very neoclassical. But in his pieces, I think are very impressive. They're some of my more favorite styles. I hope you guys tend to think the same way. I lean more towards the Sheraton style, but I also really love Hepplewhite and the Chippendale. I think there's a lot to be admired by all three of the main designers, really, rather. But I think it's evident that his style was probably derived a lot from the Louis XVI style, which in my mind, Louis XVI has got a lot of symmetry in the designs. There's, again, heavy use of lines and things of that nature, heavy use of inlay. Marquetry inlay and parquetry inlay throughout, and you see a lot of that in Sheraton's work. So in closing, I would say that if you're not familiar with Sheraton's work, there's a lot of stuff on the web. You can definitely check it out. You can read around, and next time you're at your next local antique shop or antique mall and you're out looking around, see if you can spot a Sheraton piece. See if you can see the influence there. So that's my overview of Thomas Sheraton's work. I hope you enjoyed that. If you like this type of content, do me a favor, go ahead, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you also hit the notifications buzzer. That way you'll get notification anytime I post a new video. And I'll see you guys next time.